The Count of Monte Cristo's revenge has finally reached its climax. Fernand, who framed him and stole his wife, is about to be disgraced and lose everything. Edmund has the bandit leader Vampa pose as the fabulously wealthy Count Spada, and the greedy Danglars takes the bait hook, line, and sinker. Previously, Edmund's fake telegram caused Danglars to lose millions in the stock market, pushing his bank to the brink of bankruptcy. So, he plans to break off the engagement with Fernand's family and marry his daughter Eugenie to Spada. In return, both Edmund and Spada will invest 5 million francs in Danglars' railway project to help him weather the storm. Edmund runs into Fernand at the bathhouse and casually drops a hint that Danglars might have other plans for his daughter's marriage. Fernand flies off the handle and storms over to Danglars, demanding he honor their family's engagement immediately. Danglars looks like a deer in headlights and says he can't do it. Fernand loses it and angrily asks why he's breaking his word, but Danglars beats around the bush, refusing to explain. Seeing this, Fernand starts throwing threats around.
There are things which bind us closer than if we were brothers, things that will forever remain a secret between us.
Danglars knows this refers to their plot to frame Edmund, so he begs Fernand for a month to explain. Fernand realizes he's stalling for time and leaves in a huff after making threats. This marks the end of their friendship. Danglars whines to Edmund about Fernand's rudeness, trash-talking him as just a lowly fisherman who somehow struck gold after joining the army. Edmund casually brings up the once sensational Algiers incident, where the famous General Ali Pasha was betrayed, defeated, and killed. At the time, Fernand was Ali Pasha's right-hand man. Edmund suggests Danglars look into this, hinting he might stumble onto something juicy. Danglars, already looking for an excuse to call off the engagement with Fernand's family, is more than happy to dig up dirt on Fernand. Meanwhile, Catullus and Jacopo find Villefort's illegitimate son, who was once buried alive under a bridge. The midwife who dug him out raised him and named him Gaston, after Villefort threw the midwife in the loony bin. Gaston ended up on the streets as a petty thief. Edmund learned of Gaston's whereabouts from the midwife and plans to use him to deliver a knockout blow to Villefort. Catullus brings Gaston to his place, telling him he'll soon be reunited with his foster mom. Catullus makes a point of mentioning that the Count of Monte Cristo gave him a boatload of cash to set him up. That night, Gaston, true to his nature, quietly swipes the money from Catullus' clothes. However, he's barely out the door when the inspector staking out Catullus' place spots him. The inspector pegs him as a repeat offender and grills him about why he was at Catullus and where he got all that dough. Gaston, shaking like a leaf, panics and stabs the inspector in the gut. An old lady pokes her head out the window, while Gaston hightails it out of there. The next day, Edmund learns that Gaston's been nabbed for murder, which throws a wrench in his plans. He had originally planned for Gaston to get caught for theft, but Edmund has no time for regrets. Catullus has been exposed, and they need to move on to the next phase of the plan pronto. Villefort takes Gaston to point out Catullus' pad. The cops bust down the door to make the arrest, but find the place empty, with no trace of anyone having lived there. The police accuse Gaston of lying, but Villefort knows in his gut that this is all the Count of Monte Cristo's doing. He didn't expect the Count to be so quick on the draw. At this point, Catullus has wrapped up all his tasks, and for his safety, Edmund is arranging for him to start fresh in New York. As a thank you, Edmund generously gives him a bag of diamonds.
Have I redeemed myself?
You've helped restore my faith in mankind.
I hope when this is all over, you find peace, Edmund.
As do I.
But the road to revenge is long and treacherous, and even at the end, peace might be hard to come by. Danglars finally gets the dirt from his snitch in Algiers. The news in the letter is a real bombshell, enough to send Fernand straight to hell. Danglars hands this scoop to the newspaper, which rushes to print it overnight. The next day, the headline news floors Albert. It claims that in 1817, General Ali Pasha's defeat and death in Algiers were due to Fernand's backstabbing. His cowardly actions were beyond the pale, and he even stole Ali Pasha's wealth. Albert immediately confronts the newspaper editor, Beecham, about why they published this hit piece on his dad. Beecham says someone dropped off a letter with evidence, insisting they print the whole thing. The messenger was none other than Danglars. So Albert tears over to Danglars' place to give him a piece of his mind, but Danglars claims he was forced into it.
By who? Your friend and my client, the Count of Monte Cristo.
Albert is stunned. He's always trusted and looked up to the Count, and can't wrap his head around why the Count would want to drag his family through the mud. Haiti excitedly shows the newspaper to Edmund, but Edmund just coolly says this is only the beginning. Tomorrow, Fernand will have to respond to these accusations, and that's when they'll show their hand. Meanwhile, the newspaper keeps churning out scandals about Fernand. They've received more evidence, pretty much confirming these accusations. Fernand hasn't left his house in 2 days now. The non-stop public outcry feels like death by 1,000 cuts, keeping him in a constant state of anxiety and agony. Before long, Fernand is summoned by the Chamber of Peers for public questioning. Meanwhile, Edmund and Haiti finally reach their moment of revenge. He gives Haiti 2 receipts, which will become the deadly weapons against Fernand. Given the scandal's magnitude, the king personally convenes this special session of the Chamber of Peers. Fernand, as a peer, is set to be grilled by his colleagues. According to the newspaper's disclosures, Fernand once betrayed General Ali Pasha, letting the enemy waltz right in and kick off a bloodbath. For his trouble, Fernand supposedly pocketed half of Ali Pasha's fortune. Fernand denies it all, swearing it's a pack of lies.
Can you prove it, sir? I don't have to. My reputation speaks for itself. My reputation!
He even has the gall to demand an apology from the Senate and the press. Another peer calls him out on suddenly striking it rich after coming back from Algiers. Fernand claims he made his bundle in the stock market, with Danglars as his alibi. His defense seems airtight, and for a hot minute, no one can touch him. Then the chairman drops a bombshell. It's time for a witness. Fernand's jaw hits the floor when Haiti shows up. He remembers her as the Count's protege. When Haiti announces she's General Ali Pasha's daughter, all hell breaks loose, and Fernand finally starts to sweat. Haiti spills the beans on how Fernand betrayed Ali Pasha and sold her and her mom into slavery.
Is this preposterous? Who is this woman? You're lying!
But Haiti's got an ace up her sleeve, those 2 receipts. One's from when the Count bought her freedom, and the other's got Fernand's John Hancock from when he sold her. Faced with this smoking gun, Fernand's bravado evaporates.
Is my signature.
The chairman tears him a new one for dragging the chamber's reputation through the mud and kicks him out. With a royal summons on the way, Fernand leaves in a daze, his name forever mud. Albert anxiously asks his father if those accusations are true, but Fernand blames everything on him.
You brought Monte Cristo into our lives. It would only be fitting if you removed him.
Albert's seeing red, feeling betrayed by the Count, despite Mercedes begging him not to. He grabs his white gloves, ready to throw down with the Count. Beecham tries to talk some sense into him, warning that the Count's a legend with both sword and pistol, but Albert's too far gone. He storms up to the Count, accusing him of lying and dragging his family's name through the dirt. Then he challenges the Count to a duel right.
Albert, stop this now.
I demand satisfaction.
Faced with such an insult, Edmund calmly picks up the glove, accepting his duel challenge. Mercedes, hearing about this, rushes to Edmund's place. She asks if he's out to kill her boy. She defends Albert, saying he's just hot-headed because Edmund ruined his dad. Edmund corrects her, it's not ruin, it's justice. He hands over the letter Fernand and Danglars used to frame him.
Fernand delivered this to the police on the day of our engagement celebration. My arrest lasted 15 years. And every day of those 15 years, I renewed the vow of vengeance I made on the first day.
Mercedes is floored. She drops to her knees, begging for Edmund's forgiveness. She pleads with him to punish her and Fernand, but spare Albert. Out of the blue, the Count asks when she first recognized him. Mercedes says Edmund's voice never changed. She recognized it from their first meeting.
At first, I denied it was you, but love speaks from the heart, not from the mind.
She's never stopped loving Edmund, and that has never changed. After a long pause, Edmund promises Albert will live.
But for that to happen, I must die.
Mercedes is baffled why he won't call off the duel. Edmund explains that Albert publicly insulted him. Backing down now would lose his dignity. For Edmund, besides Mercedes, what he values most is his dignity. Having lost the former, he can't lose the latter. Mercedes can't choose between her love and her son, so she bolts. At the crack of dawn, Edmund's at the dueling spot, locked and loaded. Albert finally shows up, fashionably late, but his first words are an apology. He thought Edmund had no right to punish his dad, but now his mom's filled him in. He has to admit Edmund's got every right to want payback. Seeing Albert back in one piece, Fernand assumes he's off the count, but Albert coldly tells him he bailed on the duel, then gives him the cold shoulder. He's disgusted by his dad's past sins. Fernand's a mix of confused and furious. He grabs his sword and charges into the Count's place, hell-bent on settling the score himself. Edmund's all for it, saying they know each other so well. They don't even need witnesses.
On the contrary, we know very little about each other. Let us see. Are you not Fernand, the fisherman? Are you not the soldier, Fernand, who deserted on the eve of the Battle of Waterloo?
Edmund starts laying out Fernand's life story and dirty deeds, and Fernand goes from confused to shell-shocked. When he sees the incriminating letter in his own handwriting, it finally clicks who he's dealing with. Fernand turns ghost white, asking if his wife and son know. Edmund mockingly tells him he's the last to know. Fernand leaves, totally defeated. Back home, he finds packed bags at the door. His wife and son give him the cold shoulder. Fernand's lost it all: his rep, his status, his cash, and his family. His selfish, narrow-minded ways have caused immense pain to countless people. He's earned every bit of this miserable ending. Fernand's life of sin ends with a bang, but Edmund's revenge is just reaching its climax.